Brothers and sisters, and most importantly, all the amazing women listening today, I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Today, I want to speak to every woman who feels deep inside that there is something more for her, something divine, something extraordinary that God has placed within her life. We live in a world where women are constantly striving, trying to prove themselves and seeking validation from society. Yet, God's call is different. His call is not based on what the world sees, but on what He has already placed within you. Some of you may feel ordinary, unnoticed, or even overwhelmed by life's challenges, but I am here to tell you God has marked you for a higher calling. Today I want to share 7 signs that show you are a woman chosen and appointed by God for greatness. A woman marked by God for a higher calling is defined first and foremost by her deep hunger for God. This hunger is not casual or superficial. It is a profound, insatiable desire that drives her to seek God in every aspect of her life. It is the kind of longing that goes beyond religious routine, beyond simply attending church or reading scripture out of obligation. It is a fire within the heart, a spiritual thirst that nothing in the world can fully satisfy, because it is a divine craving for intimacy with the Creator. This hunger is a clear sign that God has placed a higher calling on her life, for it is in this desire that the foundation for greatness is laid. This hunger manifests itself in the way she prioritizes her time and attention. She is not content with fleeting moments of prayer or sporadic reflection. She deliberately carves out time to be in God's presence, to listen to His voice and to understand His will. Her day is structured around spiritual nourishment as much as it is around physical needs or daily responsibilities. She understands that her strength, her wisdom, and her ability to fulfill God's plan are directly linked to how deeply she connects with Him. This is why her life is marked by consistency in prayer, meditation on the Word, and a constant openness to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. The hunger for God also shapes her perspective on life. While the world often seeks success, recognition, or material comfort as measures of achievement, she evaluates life through a spiritual lens. She recognizes that worldly gains are temporary, but a relationship with God and alignment with His purposes are eternal. This perspective transforms her mindset, her priorities, and even her choices. When faced with decisions, she instinctively turns to prayer, seeking God's wisdom above her own understanding. She does not chase after opportunities simply for personal gain. She seeks those that align with the divine purpose she senses within her soul. This discernment is a direct result of the hunger that drives her closer to God each day. Moreover, her hunger is evident in her response to challenges and trials. A woman who is marked by God does not allow difficulties to quench her spiritual desire. Instead, she turns to God even more fervently. Adversity becomes a catalyst for deeper connection, a moment to cry out, to seek understanding, and to rely fully on divine strength. Her hunger is not passive, it is active, compelling her to reach higher, to dig deeper, and to maintain a persistent faith that God will guide, restore, and elevate her. This relentless pursuit of God strengthens her character, fortifies her faith, and prepares her for the higher calling she is destined to fulfill. The hunger for God also fosters humility. A woman deeply hungry for God recognizes that her life and her abilities are gifts, not mere results of her own effort. She approaches God with reverence and dependence, understanding that every blessing, every insight, and every opportunity comes from Him. This humility makes her teachable and moldable, allowing God to shape her heart, refine her character, and equip her for leadership. Without this hunger, pride, self-reliance, or distraction could easily derail her journey, but with it, she remains aligned with God's purpose, ready to receive guidance, wisdom, and empowerment beyond her natural capacity. In addition, this hunger produces a contagious spiritual influence. Others are drawn to the depth of her faith because it is visible in her actions, her words, and her very presence. She exudes a sense of purpose and peace that comes from communion with God. Her hunger becomes a source of inspiration as people witness the vitality and power that flow from a life anchored in God's love. It is through this hunger that she not only nurtures her own spiritual growth, but also encourages and uplifts those around her, multiplying the impact of her calling. Ultimately, a deep hunger for God is the mark of a woman who is being prepared for something greater than herself. It is the soil in which the seeds of her divine destiny are planted and nurtured. This hunger drives her to seek God relentlessly, to pursue righteousness, to remain steadfast in trials, and to align every part of her life with His will. It is a hunger that transforms ordinary existence into extraordinary purpose, shaping her into a vessel through which God's power, love, and vision can flow abundantly. A woman who hungers for God is a woman poised for greatness, ready to step into the higher calling that God has meticulously prepared for her. A woman marked by God for a higher calling exhibits a life that is unmistakably touched by divine favor and protection. This is not mere luck, coincidence, or human effort. It is the supernatural hand of God moving in her life, guiding her steps, opening doors that seem impossible, and shielding her from harm in ways that are often invisible to the world. Divine favor is a sign that God has chosen her for a purpose far beyond ordinary understanding, and protection is His way of ensuring that she is preserved to fulfill the destiny He has ordained for her. Divine favor manifests itself in many ways. She often experiences opportunities and breakthroughs that cannot be explained solely by planning or effort. Jobs, connections, or unexpected resources come at exactly the right time, often appearing just when they are needed most. These are not coincidences. They are signs that God is orchestrating events in her favor. Favor does not mean a life free from challenges, but it does mean that God is continually opening doors and arranging circumstances to advance His purpose in her life. This favor may be subtle, an encouraging word at the right moment, the right mentor crossing her path, or it may be dramatic, providing miraculous provision in a time of need. In all cases, it is a divine assurance that she is under God's special care. Protection is equally evident in her life. She is not immune to trials, but there is a sense of divine covering that keeps her from being destroyed by circumstances. She navigates life's storms with a peace and confidence that come from knowing that God is her shield. Danger, harm, and setbacks do not derail her ultimate purpose because God's protection surrounds her in ways that are both seen and unseen. This protection may manifest as a timely warning, a sudden change in plans, or a providential intervention that spares her from harm. Even in moments of vulnerability, there is a spiritual safeguard ensuring that she remains aligned with God's plan. This is a sign that her life is precious to God and that He is actively preserving her for a greater purpose. A woman experiencing divine favor and protection also reflects a life of obedience and alignment with God's will. Favor is often granted not merely because of merit, but because of a life that seeks to honor God consistently. When she acts with integrity, pursues righteousness, and remains faithful to God's principles, her life naturally attracts favor. It is as though God's hand lifts obstacles and positions her in the right places to achieve His intended outcomes. Her actions, prayers, and decisions become channels through which God's favor flows, touching not only her own life but also the lives of those around her. This is why she often finds herself in situations where blessings multiply and challenges seem less overwhelming than they might be for others. Favor and protection also provide courage in the face of adversity. Knowing that God is orchestrating events on her behalf allows her to step boldly into situations that might intimidate others. She approaches life with confidence, not arrogance, because she understands that her steps are being directed by a higher power. This divine assurance strengthens her faith and resilience, empowering her to persevere when others might falter. Challenges do not defeat her, they become opportunities for God to demonstrate His power and faithfulness, highlighting the extraordinary calling placed upon her life. Furthermore, her life becomes a testimony to others of God's faithfulness. People notice that she seems to overcome difficulties with a grace and strength that cannot be explained by human effort alone. Her story inspires, her successes encourage, and her faith becomes a beacon for those seeking hope. Divine favor and protection not only shape her personal journey, but also create ripples that impact the wider community. She becomes living proof that God actively works in the lives of those He calls, orchestrating outcomes that align with His eternal purposes. Ultimately, divine favor and protection signify that God is personally involved in her life, ensuring that she is equipped and preserved for the mission He has assigned to her. It is a clear indication that she is not ordinary, but extraordinary, set apart for higher purposes and supported by a power beyond human comprehension. Favor opens doors, protection secures her steps, and together they provide a solid foundation for the fulfillment of God's divine calling. A woman who experiences these blessings can walk boldly, serve faithfully, and impact profoundly. Knowing that her life is under the direct care and guidance of the Almighty, a woman marked by God for a higher calling is distinguished by her unshakable faith. This is not a faith that wavers with every trial, nor is it a conditional belief that depends on circumstances aligning with her desires. Rather, it is a faith deeply rooted in God's promises. A conviction that remains steadfast regardless of the storms she faces, the obstacles in her path, or the doubts that the world may try to instill. Unshakable faith is a defining trait of those chosen for extraordinary purposes because it forms the foundation upon which God builds His work in her life. Unshakable faith begins with trust. Trust in God's character, His goodness, and His unfailing promises. A woman with this faith does not measure God's ability by what she sees in the natural world. She understands that God is sovereign, all-powerful, and intimately involved in her life, orchestrating events according to His divine wisdom. Even when situations seem impossible, she holds on to the certainty that God's plan is perfect and His timing flawless. This unwavering trust allows her to face challenges with courage, knowing that every obstacle is an opportunity for God to demonstrate His power and faithfulness. One of the hallmarks of unshakable faith is perseverance. Life will inevitably present trials, moments of disappointment, loss, or confusion, but a woman marked by God does not falter. She remains steadfast in prayer, persistent in obedience, and patient in expectation. Her faith is not passive, it is active and resilient, compelling her to continue walking in God's ways, even when the outcome is not immediately visible. This perseverance strengthens her character, refines her spirit, and prepares her to fulfill the higher calling God has placed upon her life. Unshakable faith also transforms perspective. Whereas many allow fear, doubt, or discouragement to dictate their decisions, she sees life through a lens of divine possibility. Challenges become lessons, setbacks become setups for breakthrough, and obstacles become opportunities to witness God's miraculous intervention. She approaches situations with a confidence rooted not in her own strength, but in God's unwavering power. This perspective allows her to act boldly, make decisions aligned with divine purpose, and step into opportunities that others might avoid due to fear or uncertainty. Faith in God also produces peace amidst chaos. A woman with unshakable faith is not easily shaken by turmoil, criticism, or adversity. She carries an inner calm because she knows that God is in control. This peace is a visible testament to others of her deep spiritual connection and the strength she derives from God. It allows her to remain focused on her calling without being distracted by external pressures or temporary setbacks. The tranquility born of faith also strengthens her relationships, leadership, and influence, as others are drawn to her example of steadfast trust in God. Another critical aspect of unshakable faith is obedience. True faith is not merely belief, it is action. A woman marked by God demonstrates her faith through her choices, her priorities, and her willingness to follow God's guidance, even when it challenges her comfort zone. This obedience is a reflection of her unwavering trust in God's wisdom. It positions her to receive blessings, divine favor, and the empowerment necessary to fulfill her calling. The combination of belief and action amplifies the impact of her faith, producing results that go beyond human understanding. Unshakable faith also inspires others. People naturally gravitate towards someone who demonstrates unwavering trust in God because it provides hope and encouragement. When others witness her steadfastness through trials, they are reminded that God is faithful and that his promises hold true. Her faith becomes a beacon of light, showing that ordinary challenges can be overcome when life is anchored in divine trust. By living with unshakable faith, she not only strengthens her own journey, but also impacts the spiritual growth of those around her. Ultimately, unshakable faith is the spiritual foundation that enables a woman to step into her higher calling. It empowers her to navigate life's uncertainties, face adversity without fear, and pursue God's purpose with boldness and confidence. This faith is not dependent on circumstance or personal ability. It is rooted in the knowledge that God is faithful, sovereign, and committed to bringing his plans to fruition in her life. A woman who embodies unshakable faith is prepared to accomplish great things, serve as a vessel of divine influence, and fulfill the extraordinary destiny that God has ordained for her. Her faith is her anchor, her strength, and her testimony, a living proof that God's power is made perfect in unwavering trust. A woman marked by God for a higher calling is distinguished by her resilience, the ability to rise above challenges, setbacks, and disappointments, while remaining steadfast in her purpose. Resilience is not simply the act of enduring difficulties. It is the capacity to grow stronger, wiser, and more spiritually attuned through every trial. It is a hallmark of a life that is being shaped for extraordinary impact. For God does not call his chosen ones to a path of ease, but to a journey that refines their character and strengthens their faith. Every obstacle becomes a tool in his hands, shaping a woman into a vessel capable of fulfilling a divine purpose far beyond her own natural capacity. Resilience begins with perspective. A woman marked by God does not view trials as punishments or as reasons to give up. She understands that adversity is a necessary part of spiritual growth and personal development. Life's challenges are opportunities to demonstrate faith, trust, and obedience to God. While others may see failure, she sees lessons. Where others perceive dead ends, she sees God orchestrating a greater plan. This mindset allows her to maintain hope, even in the most difficult circumstances, knowing that God's hand is guiding her toward victory. Her perspective transforms hardship into a catalyst for progress rather than a barrier to success. Another aspect of resilience is the ability to maintain faith under pressure. Life will inevitably present moments that test patience, strength, and belief. But a woman marked by God does not let these trials shake her trust. She clings to God's promises, recalls his faithfulness in past situations, and confidently steps forward, even when the path ahead seems uncertain. This kind of unwavering faith acts as a stabilizing force, allowing her to navigate challenges with courage and clarity. Resilience and faith are inseparable because enduring adversity without God's guidance can lead to discouragement, while enduring it with faith strengthens both the spirit and the character. Resilience also requires adaptability. A woman chosen by God is not rigid in her approach. She is willing to adjust her strategies, learn new skills, and embrace change as part of the process. Life rarely unfolds exactly as planned, and those who can adapt without losing sight of their purpose are the ones who thrive under pressure. Adaptability does not mean compromise on principles or values. Rather, it is the ability to navigate unexpected circumstances while remaining aligned with God's calling. This flexibility ensures that she can seize opportunities that arise from challenges, turning potential setbacks into stepping stones toward her destiny. Perseverance is a core component of resilience. A woman marked by God keeps moving forward despite fatigue, criticism, or discouragement. She refuses to quit, recognizing that the obstacles she faces are temporary, while the calling upon her life is eternal. Perseverance is fueled by a deep trust in God's timing and a determination to see his promises fulfilled. Every setback is met with renewed determination. Every disappointment is followed by renewed effort, and every failure is treated as a learning opportunity. This persistence allows her to accumulate strength and wisdom that cannot be gained through comfort or ease alone. Resilience also involves emotional strength. A woman chosen by God experiences the full range of human emotions: pain, frustration, grief, and disappointment. But she does not allow them to dictate her decisions or derail her calling. She processes emotions in a healthy, God-centered way, seeking guidance through prayer, reflection, and support from spiritually aligned communities. This emotional fortitude allows her to maintain clarity, compassion, and focus even during turbulent times. It ensures that she emerges from adversity not only intact but also strengthened and refined, ready to embrace greater responsibilities and opportunities. Furthermore, resilience is contagious. Those who witness a woman rising above challenges with grace, courage, and faith are inspired to cultivate their own strength and perseverance. Her ability to overcome adversity not only prepares her for her own higher calling, but also empowers and encourages others to remain steadfast in their faith and purpose. She becomes a living testament to God's sustaining power, demonstrating that no trial is insurmountable when one is anchored in divine purpose. Ultimately, resilience and overcoming adversity signify that a woman is being prepared for extraordinary impact. God's hand is molding her through every trial, equipping her with patience, strength, wisdom, and spiritual maturity. These qualities cannot be acquired in comfort. They are forged in the fires of challenge and trial. A woman who embodies resilience is not only able to endure hardship, but also to transform it into opportunity, growth, and influence. Her life becomes a testimony to God's faithfulness and power, showing that those chosen by Him are equipped to overcome, rise above, and fulfill a destiny that is divine, profound, and world-changing. A woman marked by God for a higher calling naturally carries an influence that extends far beyond herself. This influence is not about seeking recognition, fame, or power. It is the quiet, undeniable impact of a life aligned with God's purpose. Her actions, words, attitudes, and faith become a source of inspiration to those around her, often without her conscious effort. This influence is a clear sign that she has been chosen for a higher calling, as God uses her life to shape, encourage, and uplift others in ways that leave a lasting imprint. The foundation of her influence is authenticity. She does not try to project an image of perfection, nor does she conform to the expectations of the world to gain approval. Instead, she lives with integrity, demonstrating through her behavior and choices that she is guided by divine principles. People are drawn to authenticity because it reflects truth and reliability. When she speaks, prays, or acts, others sense the presence of God in her life. Her authenticity becomes a beacon, showing that it is possible to live a life of faith, purpose, and obedience even in the midst of challenges and imperfections. Her influence is also rooted in her ability to lead by example. Others observe how she responds to trials, handles responsibilities, and pursues her goals with faith and determination. Her resilience, humility, and steadfastness are lessons in themselves, demonstrating that a life committed to God produces fruit in every circumstance. This kind of example inspires others to elevate their own lives, to pursue their calling with courage, and to trust God even when the path seems uncertain. Her leadership is not necessarily formal. It is the natural result of a character shaped by God, and it encourages those who watch her journey to step into their own potential. A woman marked by God also inspires through her words. She speaks with wisdom, encouragement, and hope, often providing guidance and comfort to those in need. Her conversations carry the weight of experience and faith, offering insight that others cannot find elsewhere. She knows how to uplift without judgment, how to correct without condemnation, and how to guide without controlling. Her words become tools of empowerment, instilling confidence and faith in others. People leave her presence feeling stronger, more hopeful, and more determined to pursue God's purpose in their own lives. Her influence is magnified by her compassion. A woman called by God recognizes the struggles, fears, and pain of those around her, and responds with empathy and support. She invests in the lives of others, offering encouragement, prayer, mentorship, or simply a listening ear. This compassionate engagement demonstrates that her calling is not solely for personal achievement, but also for the benefit of others. By showing genuine concern and care, she becomes a conduit for God's love, allowing His presence to touch the hearts and minds of those she encounters. Her influence, therefore, is not measured by power or status, but by the depth of impact she has on the lives of people around her. Another aspect of her influence is her ability to inspire faith in others. Her life is a living testimony of God's power, faithfulness, and grace. When others witness her overcoming adversity, walking in integrity, or achieving extraordinary things through reliance on God, their own faith is strengthened. They see that divine guidance and favor are real, tangible forces that can shape their own lives. This ripple effect ensures that her calling extends far beyond her personal journey, touching communities, families, and even generations with the light of God's presence. Furthermore, her influence grows because it is rooted in purpose. Every action she takes, every decision she makes, and every challenge she faces is aligned with a higher calling. This purpose-driven life resonates with others because it demonstrates that life is meant to be lived with intentionality, faith, and service. She inspires not just by what she does, but by why she does it, because her life is anchored in God's plan. Her purpose becomes contagious, motivating others to seek meaning, pursue spiritual growth, and align themselves with God's vision. Ultimately, influence and inspiration are divine markers of a woman's higher calling. God uses her life as a platform to impact others, to plant seeds of faith, hope, and courage, and to model what it means to live fully in His will. She becomes a living testimony that a life surrendered to God is powerful, transformative, and far-reaching. A woman who inspires others is not simply admired, she is a vessel through which God's purposes are magnified, and her influence multiplies in ways that endure beyond her immediate sphere. Her life encourages others to rise, to believe, and to pursue their own higher calling with unwavering faith and determination. A woman marked by God for a higher calling carries within her a vision and purpose that transcend ordinary ambition. This vision is not born out of personal desire alone, nor is it shaped merely by societal expectations. It is a divine imprint on her heart, a calling that resonates deeply within her soul and points to a life designed to fulfill God's extraordinary plan. This God-given vision is both a compass and a catalyst. It directs her steps and propels her forward, ensuring that every action, decision, and endeavor aligns with the destiny she has been called to embrace. The presence of this vision in her life often begins as a quiet yet persistent awareness that she is meant for something more. While others may be content with routine or mediocrity, she senses a higher purpose pulling her forward, urging her to rise above complacency and embrace the extraordinary. This sense of divine calling is unmistakable because it stirs a passion within her that cannot be ignored. It is a deep conviction that her life is not random, that her experiences, gifts, and talents are all designed for the fulfillment of a purpose far greater than herself. A woman carrying a God-given vision understands that her purpose is closely linked to the needs of others and the advancement of God's kingdom. Her goals are not solely personal or materialistic. They are transformative, designed to impact lives, communities, and even generations. She seeks to use her gifts and abilities in ways that bring hope, healing, and inspiration to the world around her. This awareness keeps her focused, disciplined, and motivated, even in the face of obstacles or criticism. She knows that a life of purpose requires dedication and sacrifice, yet she willingly embraces the challenges because they are stepping stones toward fulfilling her divine mission. Faith plays a central role in pursuing this God-given vision. A woman marked by God does not rely solely on her own understanding, strength, or resources. She continually seeks guidance through prayer, scripture, and spiritual counsel. She trusts that God, who placed the vision in her heart, will also equip her with the tools, opportunities, and wisdom necessary to bring it to fruition. This faith allows her to persevere when the path is unclear, to remain steadfast when progress seems slow, and to act boldly when opportunities align with her calling. Her vision is inseparable from her reliance on God, for it is His purpose that drives her forward. A God-given vision also instills resilience and determination. Every challenge, setback, or disappointment is met with renewed commitment rather than discouragement. She understands that obstacles are part of the journey and often serve to refine her character, strengthen her faith, and prepare her for the responsibility of achieving her divine purpose. This determination ensures that she does not give up when faced with difficulties, but instead seeks creative solutions, remains persistent, and continues to move forward with clarity and confidence. Her vision acts as an anchor, keeping her focused and undeterred by distractions or temporary failures. Moreover, this vision fosters a life of intentionality. A woman marked by God does not drift aimlessly through life. She lives with purpose in every decision, relationship, and endeavor. Her actions are deliberate and aligned with the calling she carries, ensuring that her time, energy, and resources are invested in ways that advance her destiny. This intentional approach allows her to maximize her impact, avoid unnecessary detours, and stay aligned with God's plan. It demonstrates wisdom and foresight, qualities essential for fulfilling a higher calling. A God-given vision also inspires and empowers others. When people witness a woman living with clarity, purpose, and faith, they are encouraged to seek their own calling and embrace their potential. Her vision becomes a beacon, showing that a life surrendered to God is purposeful, impactful, and transformative. Others are drawn to her example, and through her influence, God multiplies the reach and effect of her calling. In this way, her vision not only fulfills her destiny, but also contributes to the greater work of God in the world. Ultimately, a God-given vision and purpose are defining marks of a woman chosen for a higher calling. It is a divine roadmap that shapes her decisions, guides her actions, strengthens her faith, and amplifies her impact. It empowers her to rise above mediocrity, persevere through trials, and influence the lives of others with intentionality and grace. A woman who embraces this vision walks confidently, knowing that her life has been carefully designed for extraordinary outcomes. Her purpose is not fleeting. It is eternal, transformative, and divinely appointed, ensuring that every step she takes contributes to the fulfillment of God's magnificent plan. In closing, a woman marked by God for a higher calling is extraordinary, not because of worldly achievements, but because of the divine qualities that flow through her life. Her deep hunger for God fuels every thought and action, keeping her anchored in His presence and guidance. Divine favor and protection surround her, opening doors and shielding her steps, ensuring that nothing can derail the plan God has for her. Her unshakable faith allows her to trust in God's promises even when circumstances seem impossible, giving her courage to persevere through trials and challenges. Resilience equips her to overcome adversity with strength and grace, transforming setbacks into opportunities for growth and preparation. Her influence and inspiration naturally touch the lives of others, encouraging them to seek God and embrace their own calling. Finally, her God-given vision and purpose provide clarity, direction, and determination, ensuring that every step she takes aligns with the extraordinary destiny God has prepared for her. Together, these qualities are not just marks of distinction. They are a blueprint for a life of impact, purpose, and divine fulfillment. Every trial she faces, every decision she makes, and every act of faith becomes a testimony to God's power and faithfulness. To every woman listening today, you are not ordinary. You are chosen. You are equipped. You are called. Embrace your calling with courage. Walk boldly in your faith and let the world witness the incredible God-ordained destiny that flows through you. Your life is a reflection of His glory, and your higher calling is waiting to be fulfilled.